Hello, it's me again. Time for another slice of life in Normandy with René Me in René and Me, Chapter 6.
René and Me by George East. Read by Eugene Fraser.
March the 27th. It's not yet dawn, but we're already hard at work over coffee and calva in the Café de Paris. In the barely aired streets, two farmers squabble half-heartedly over the price of a board ewe as they work themselves up for market day in Brickbeck. The deserted square calmly awaits the arrival of the livestock, hardware, clothing and food stalls, while a pair of rooks take their ease on the church tower, hoarsely discussing the possibilities of rich pickings when the day's trading is done. It is a very civilized way to start the day. My wife and I are engrossed in our regular early morning language session, with Fredo, le professeur, teaching us to talk like true Cotentinese. We have almost reached the end of today's crash course in complimenting a neighbour on the virility and volume of his cockerel, when our latest house guests arrive. I introduce Fredo to our friends Ronaldo and Janet, who have come over to take advantage of the fortnight version of our special Real France package. The standard terms are that we pay for their ferry and food, while our visitors contribute skilled labour to the terrain or restoration work on the mill cottage. We've made mistakes in our selection process and found some former friends arriving under the misapprehension that they are here solely to enjoy themselves. But generally the system has paid off. Nowadays we find visiting electricians, carpenters and bricklayers far more fascinating company than marketing consultants and aromatherapists. Ronaldo has been running pubs in Hampshire for the past 20 years, but comes from a remote area of Italy which is almost as rural as Cotentin, so should know the lie of the land and how to best deal with it. He will therefore be in charge of groundworks during their stay, provided, as I've already warned, he gets on with our estate manager. As they recover from the effects of an overnight crossing with a restorative gout, the conversation turns to current events at Le Pouce, and I ask Fredo for his views on the latest inhabitant of the Big Pond. Listening closely to my wife's description of the mystery beast, our host's moustache begins to quiver like the tail of an overexcited pointer hound. It sounds, he says, in sepulchral tones, as if we have a mousquet on our hands. This is very, very bad for the land, and he will come to Le Pouce tomorrow after school and shoot it. Seeing my wife's expression, I quickly point out that, in my opinion, the beast is actually nothing more or less than a large water rat, or even an overgrown vole. Fredo shrugs and says it does not matter what it is, he is still happy to come along and shoot it. Other locals now enter the debate and make their judgments as to the identity of our new tenant. Whatever they suggest, Fredo declares it to be very bad for the land, and that it will be his pleasure to shoot it for us. By now at least a dozen regulars have joined the conversation, and offers to visit Le Pouce and rid us of our dangerous intruder are coming thick and fast. With my wife about to forget her normally impeccable manners and explain that she personally is thrilled to discover a wild creature larger than a butterfly still at large in Cotentin, I turn the subject to other matters. Ronaldo, I announce, is a keen fisherman, and I wonder if the assembly can suggest the best sport in the area. Fredo's best friend Piero is then universally acknowledged as the finest fisherman in the region, if not all France, and kindly agrees to show our Italian friend how to catch trout. I now see another side of Ronaldo, whose outsized moustache had not appeared as significant when on duty with its master behind the bar of his pub in the Isle of Wight. Speaking in the overly polite tones of a character from The Godfather, who has had his ability to effortlessly remove a horse's head put in question, he explained that he learned to fish in the limpid mountain pools of the Abruzzo before he could walk. Moreover, the teacher was his blessed grandfather, who was recognized nationwide as the finest fisherman in the region, if not all Italy. Seeing the inevitable outcome of the debate, I ask brightly if anyone has visited the latest Millet exhibition at the Cherbourg Musée, but it is too late. Over another round of Calva, an international challenge is laid down. This weekend, Italy, Great Britain and Cotentin will clash at the local fish-it-yourself pond. The one with the smallest catch will pay for the total haul. I remember the sausage game at Christmas and mutter something about the need to plant a row of onion sets at Le Pouce, but Ronaldo's Latin blood is obviously up. We will convene in the Café de Paris this weekend, and the matter will be resolved. All appears well when we arrive at Le Pouce, and our estate manager is not in evidence. So I take Ronaldo to see the big pond and our trout colony. After an hour of casting our sliced English bread in the waters, we get a glimpse of Trevor, and I confess my belief that he is the sole fish in residence, though my wife is under the impression that the original 4 dozen are still there and merely shy. On the advice of René, and after the big pond had bedded in, we visited the nearest commercial trout lake and bought a dustbin full of healthy yearlings. My idea at the time was to make a start on our own trout-rearing business. A spin-off would be the creation of a personal fishing pond with inhabitants enticed out of the water and into the pan in moments, whenever the fancy took me. Obviously, I didn't share the details of this part of the plan with my wife. In the event, the water in the bin proved a little short of oxygen over the 3-mile journey, and several of the fish lay gasping limply in the shallows when we released them into our new pond. Without a thought for personal safety, Donella jumped in and administered artificial respiration, after which they happily swam off to join their fellows. Her bonding with them in this dramatic and intimate manner was of course fatal for my ambitions. The pond immediately declared off limits, and my rod briskly parcelled up and taken back to Portsmouth. It was particularly galling that while I was banned from fishing in my own pond, the local angling fraternity felt free to enjoy the facilities in our absence. Each visit, it seemed, fewer trout came up for their daily feed. It was even alleged by some of our friends that René Me had placed advertisements for the new étain à treat in bars that he knew we didn't visit, and had been selling daily tickets, bait, cold beer and frites from his caravan while we were away. Even if the story is true, now that Trevor is the lone tenant of the pond, the idea of fishing for more than 5 minutes without a guaranteed catch would have deterred the most earnest Norman fisherman, and he seems safe. Reluctant to restock the pond for the benefit of the locals or tell my wife of our losses, I now spend much of my time throwing feed pellets at the amused crayfish gang and claiming to have spotted at least a dozen healthy trout leaping after my solo visits to the pond. Donella says the colony must have developed a special relationship with me, as she has never seen more than one at a time, and they all look remarkably like Trevor. March the 28th. To Carteret, and a special treat for our guests. Known elsewhere and somewhat ironically as the Saint-Tropez of Cotentin, Carteret is a former fishing village on the west coast, which now boasts more restaurants, bistros and bars per head than any other settlement on the peninsula. On the quay is an interesting Italian-style restaurant which is owned by a barking mad patron who seems at permanent odds with his live-in waitress and lover. On our first visit there, crockery exploded off stage in the kitchen before he fled into the night, leaving customers to rescue their own pizzas from the oven. There followed a series of dramatic phone calls, causing the girlfriend to desert us in mid-serve and follow him into the street before both returned for a tearful reunion at the next table. Thinking this will all make Ronaldo feel at home, we arrive for the matinee performance and study the menu. Our friend is not amused to find that the only wine on offer is French, which he takes as a comment on the standing of his own country's produce. After letting off a fruitless burst of Italian at the waitress, he demands to see the owner, and is even more upset to find that he too is French, and that he learnt his art and craft when working as a delivery biker for the famous Pizza du Suite in Cherbourg. The meal goes from bad to worse, as Ronaldo is both surprised and extremely unhappy to find a French cheese topping on his Neapolitan surprise special. The final straw is the discovery that the English translation of the sweets on offer includes his alleged regional speciality, banana shit.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that chapter of René and Me, and that you join us again for the next one. See you soon.
René and Me. Written by George East and read by Eugene Fraser.